Oh, hello, everybody. Welcome back to the 2023 season of the Craps Jackpot Fantasy Football League. I am your ever humble and always with it fantasy commissioner. Some call me Taco. You don't, so don't. Um, yeah, this is shaping up to be a very interesting year. We've already had our technical glitches at the draft. We've had trades happen. We've had moves. We've had no fab budget going or anything like that. So make sure that you are privy to the newest rules. I've sent those out to everybody in PDF format, along with one of my very long-winded emails. Another sort of announcement I have is if you're interested in joining the podcast, we can definitely do this thing once a week, once every couple weeks, whenever the hell we feel like it, kind of a thing. But I figured it's high time we're due for a little pod here. So mainly because I'm going to brag and no one's here to stop me from doing that. So I'm actually going to go in, talk about today the power rankings, who I think is going to make the playoffs, where teams' strengths and weaknesses are. And I will go pretty quick. I'm also going to talk about my predictions for week one, which weirdly starts tomorrow. So without further ado, because there's no banter to be had on the show, because again, just me, let's get this underway. So power rankings, reverse order here. And I will talk about weaknesses and I will talk about strengths. I've got Camper Dude in dead last place. I've got Hunter Biden's laptop in second to last place. By the way, these are all rest of season rankings as of right now, not draft day. We already talked about draft day. That is done and gone and dead. So I am just looking at the rest of the season from this point out, and I understand changes are made. These are my opinions. My opinions suck. Don't take them personally. Kind of know what I'm talking about because I've won 3 times, but to each their own. Okay, so we've got Camper Dude in last place at 10th. Ninth place, we've got Hunter Biden's laptop. After that, I've got Pontiac Bandits. Then I've got Blood Brothers, who really needs to change his name. Probably doesn't know how to do it. Kickers Are People 2 at 6th. And then we've got Phuket Going Deep at 5. We've got Bone City at 4. Will a New Name Help at 3. Hans Molman at 2. And it should come as no surprise that I've ranked myself number 1. So just kind of going through this, let's talk about strengths and weaknesses here for each individual team. I'm going again in reverse order, and there's kind of a reason to this. Let's focus on Mick for a second here. 10th place, not a good bench, dead last in bench, 10th for me. If you're going starters, he's like 6. He's got some really good key pieces on there as far as like his starting roster goes. Just no flex. QB is now the worst, was not earlier today until a trade happened. Defense, a lot of room to be desired there. Running back outside of Chubb is basically no one. So I've got him 8th on there. Flex 10th, QB's 10th, defense is 8th, running back is 8th, wide receiver is 5th. It should come as no surprise to anybody that he's number 1 on tight end. There's two reasons for this. Number 1, Travis Kelce. We cannot put a bad mark on a Travis Kelce rostered team. Mick has 4 additional tight ends to Travis Kelce. So in a 10-man league, Mick drafted 10 tight ends. I have never seen a strategy before. I want to be proven wrong. This not, and you're flexing Cole Kmet week 1. I'm happy. I'm playing Mick week 1, determined prior to the season starting. I want to point that out too. Random Yahoo figured it out. Don't get mad at me. But when we get to that, we'll get to that. But yeah, tight end number 1, fantastic. Number 1 at something. And it's on to Hunter Biden's laptop, Carlos. Let's go bench 8th here. Auto drafted, obviously technical difficulties, wasn't supposed to happen. Unavoidable given the circumstances. He was just coming off of COVID, or we're still dealing with COVID. So it is what it is. 9th place in starters. Still think, like, all things considered, auto draft didn't do as bad of a job. And actually, if you did any of the auto drafts, or not auto drafts, if you did any of the mock drafts through Yahoo beforehand, they fixed a lot of technical stuff this year that wasn't always the case. Like, I used to throw up quarterbacks whenever it was auto drafting because it would just bid really high on it to get it over with. This year, it didn't creep up like that. So it did follow a different algorithm this year. So I haven't quite figured that out. So auto drafted a little bit better, to say. 10th at running back. We addressed some issue today with running back. There were some pieces that were immediate needs. I think when he adjusts his roster, I'll make an adjustment on this. It's probably why I have him more ranked 8th on bench compared to 10th at running backs here. Tight end 9th. Flex overall, I think we're sitting at 8th place. Solid defense, good QB, Joe Burrow. And he's got a stack with Jamar Chase on the team there. So that'll be a fun watch. And then just top-notch wide receivers across the board. I don't think anybody has better wide receivers than Hunter Biden's laptop does, which is fantastic. So let's go over to Pontiac Bandits. I always underestimate Ryan's team. I want to point that out right now. As far as bench goes, it's not deep. So I've got him ranked 9th. 5th in starters, though. So his starting lineup is actually quite good. 8th in QB, 7th in flex, 6th in defense, 6th in running back, 4th in wide receivers, and then 2 in tight end. That's what happens when you end up with Mark Andrews on your team. So this is a very good starting roster. If I'm going deep dive here, not the best QB situation. That hurts. And then just not having a lot of options at flex with a very limited bench felt like 8 was the right spot for Ryan to be at. But it's very close to Blood Brothers. A bench 7th, starter 7th, wide receiver 10, flex 9, tight end 5, defense 4, QB 3, RB 3. Now, people are too high on Bijan Robinson. I want to say that prior to the season starting, and I get it. Atlanta loves to run the football. That team's a mess. You never know what that team is going to do. That's a team that has Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Tyler Algier, now Desmond Ritter. And I just can see a path for Bijan having a fantastic career. I don't know if he gets it going year one. And I don't know if Atlanta is good enough to get out of their own way and allow him to be what everybody thinks he's going to be. And I just don't know enough to say one way or another on Atlanta and their decision-making. So still very high on that. So, but Blood Brothers at 7. There's a pretty big jump from this point to me where teams go, and not to knock on any of those bottom 4 that I just have listed down there. Here's where I go to kickers or people too, right? I think it's a really solid bench put together here. Starters, kind of an 8 for me. We'll get to that. Not the best QB situation. Wide receivers are pretty limited. Not a lot in the tight end territory. Solid on running backs, 4th. Just to go back, QB 9, WR 8, tight end 8, RB 4, defense 3, and then flex 2nd. I think there's a lot of variation, which is why I have bench ranked very good for this team, for Andy's team here. Well, really Nick's team, to be honest. I mean, 2 years in a row, we're just letting Nick play for free, which is cool. Then let's go to the Phuket going deep. Sean's really good at fantasy, putting together a really solid lineup, and I like what he's done from having some options with the bench. He goes 6th in bench for me, 4th in starters, wide receiver 7, QB 7, tight end 6, flex 3rd, defense 1, and RB 1. Solid team here. Not a lot to say outside of that. Sits dead middle, and I know it sounds like somebody who has the top starting running back room should absolutely, have a higher ranking, but wide receivers got to pull that back a little bit. Bone City, very close here. It feels like Brett went with a 0 RB strategy. Not very strong there, but 2nd bench overall. There's a lot of depth on that bench. 10th for starters, 9th at RB, 8th at the defense position. But here's what I love. I love what people forget. What I think everybody forgets is how long the season actually is. Injuries, bye weeks, depth, and just throwing darts at players that weren't crazy popular picks last year. Second year receivers, stuff like that. Brett's got a pretty good grasp on that. So I've got 6 flex, 4 tight end, 4 QB, and 2 wide receivers. Or number 2 at wide receiver, rather. Moving on to Peel. On paper, this is a great team. I think 3rd at bench, 3rd at starters. That's dangerous right in and of itself. Tight end, a little bit to be desired, but I think after 1 and 2, there's a drop off. I think Mark Andrews and Travis Kelce are the top 2 guys. And then I think everybody else, Waller may be in that upper echelon. And I hope that's the case too for whoever owns Waller. We need more than just 2 tight ends that can carry a league, because it just makes drafting very difficult. But it's talk to Mick if you need one. I mean, he's got plenty. Maybe there's a proverbial dart throw that can be thrown here. So getting back to this, so we're 3rd on bench, 3rd on starters, 7th at tight end, 6th at QB, 5th at running back, 4th at flex, 3rd at wide receiver, and the number 2 defense overall. So I think Peel really has a very strong team this year. Hans Molman, I think the Jeff Lou put together a really good team. I think Jeff Thomas is doing a very good job financing and managing at this point. We've got 5th at defense, 1st for starters. I think he actually does really have the best starters in the league. And a little bit of depth to back that up too. Tight end, I mean, you got what you got because you waited and you spent on other positions, which I don't blame you at that point. You just take a flyer and figure it out after a week or 2, and that'll really enhance things. Defense 7, wide receiver 6, running back room is number 2. The flex spots overall are number 1. I'll get to that a little later. And I think you have the best QB in the league, hands down, in both fantasy and in real life, just football. And then me. So I feel like I have the most depth. I kind of built that way during the draft. You saw I sort of ate up the middle rounds. After a trade today, I feel like I have the second best starters. Kind of fixed my quote unquote Aaron Rodgers problem, if you will. I'm 9th at wide receiver, 6th or 8th at defense, but I'm streaming defenses. So, running back 7, it went down. Flex 5th, 3rd at tight end, and 2nd at QB. I think there's a debate to be had here. You can really swap out one of the top 4 teams here and make the argument that they've got it. I kind of built to get through the bye weeks and plug and play. I mean, if you end up looking at how some of these rosters are built, a lot of guys talk about one injury and you're screwed. I want high ceiling. I don't always play that way. I mean, I think I'm not saying I don't play for first. I absolutely always play for first, but if you win 3rd place, you're going to win some money. So try to get there, get yourself in playoffs, give yourself an opportunity. Let's go through the matchups here. So I'm going to go with Phuket going deep first and Hunter Biden's laptop. What I'll do, if you remember from the podcast 2 years ago when I was doing this on the reg, I would go just position to position and rank it out. I'm going to go this matchups. Yahoo's got it 125 to 120 in favor of Sean over Carlos. I think it's going to be a lot closer than a 5 or 6 point difference, which is basically what it's sitting at right now. I still give the edge to Sean here. I think it's going to be 118 to 116, something in that wheelhouse, that range. I just think Justin Herbert is better than Joe Burrow against Miami compared to Cleveland. They're playing at Cleveland. Herbert's playing at home. Week 1, Miami's not, they don't jump out to me that they're going to really stop Herbert in his tracks. Jamar Chase, hands down, the best of all the wide receivers I'm going to talk about here. Stephon Diggs, those are on Carlos's side of the ball, and then you've got Garrett Wilson and Deebo Samuel on Sean's side of the ball. I like what Sean did by getting Garrett Wilson and Deebo. I think Garrett Wilson's going to have a very special year, sort of banking on that when, I drafted Rodgers for $2, is that connection would be special. I don't know if that's going to come out week 1 against Buffalo, but like I still have him as a WR8 on the week. Stephon Diggs at New York, like he's going to feast. Where things get a little wonky here for Carlos is the running backs. This is 0 RB strategy that auto drafted. So he ended up with Jerick McKinnon, and then it was Tank Bigsby, which got adjusted. We traded Jonathan Taylor and Jalen Hurts for Kenneth Walker and Khalil Herbert. So he gets 2 starting running backs for a position that he needed some assistance with. And he's plugging in, Kenneth Walker right away. I did not want to have to part with Kenneth Walker. I think he's going to have a good year. But, to upgrade at the quarterback position. So I give the edge here still to Sean. Austin Eckler, Jamar Gibbs is special. I really like the prospect of Jamar Gibbs this season, but I will put my reservation on it's Detroit. Detroit's going to Detroit. Special player. I just don't want them to do what they tend to do, and make David Montgomery the Jamal Williams of 2023. And I think it's possible that happens. And I think, all this preseason hype around Jamar Gibbs being lined up on the outside in positions that running back shouldn't be at is a bunch of bullshit that they're talking just to talk shit to get everybody all fucked up. I hate coach talk. It's so irritating. So I don't know that Gibbs is going to get used that way. It's a Thursday night game, which is tomorrow, Kansas City. Like, the Lions going on the road to Kansas City week 1 is just such an insult to that organization having to play, like a very black sheep darling team that everybody is kind of rooting for. Even in the NFC, I'm like, if the Lions win, I wouldn't be like pissed off about it. I'd be like, great. They kind of like were bad for so long. As long as that, Green Bay, like, who gives a shit? So anyway, I digress. I like Jamar Gibbs quite a bit. Dallas Goedert over Tyler Higbee, although Tyler Higbee gets a bump for me because Cooper Kupp was ruled out. I'm not a big Devonta Smith fan, but in the flex spot, Devonta Smith versus Breece Hall, as far as like, side-by-side comparison, I like the edge for Devonta Smith. Donovan Peoples-Jones over Cortland Sutton. No, I'm going to take Sutton on Sean's side. So you're talking the WR14 and Devonta Smith as far as like ranking goes, and then 29 and 32, RB 29 for Breece and 32 for Sutton. And Peoples-Jones is way down there for me. So I would be flexing Herbert if it were me over Donovan Peoples-Jones, but that's just my humble opinion. New York at Buffalo on a Monday night game, I would rather have San Francisco as well. So again, that matchup goes 118-116 for me in favor of Sean. So Sean will be 1-0. Carlos will be 0-1. Moving in, Pontiac Bandits versus Hans Molman. So Patrick Mahomes, best quarterback. We already established that. Doesn't matter what team he's playing. He's going to be QB1 most all of the time. He's going to be competing with Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen, and maybe Joe Burrow rotating in and out with, like, as far as tiers go, you got Joe Burrow and Fields and Herbert maybe threatening to kind of be, mixing up with that. But Mahomes, Thursday night game, going to be fired up. First game of the season, then they go on a mini bye because of course they can. So, but Kelsey is not playing. So just tempering a little caution on that, his security blanket. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that. I don't know if Kelsey's playing or not. We only know at the time of the recording, 10:39, hyperextended knee for Travis Kelsey. So we don't know what's going to happen with that. I think A.J. Brown's phenomenal. I think playing New England's defense, I want the excitement of Amon-Ra St. Brown, and if you're doing a side-by-side matchup on that. Ryan's playing Zay Jones. Give me Christian Kirk if we're doing that whole thing. So I lean more on the side of the Jeffs for their wide receiver set that they have than I do on the Ryan side of things. I think Zay Jones is weaker of the two. I also know if I'm looking down, I'm only judging what are in these positional ranks. So you'll get a boost when you get a flex. Don't freak out. Again, my opinion, not yours. Christian McCaffrey over Joe Mixon. We've got Aaron Jones and Najee Harris. You give me Aaron Jones. Again, leaning Jeff on these sides. Miles Sanders and versus James Conner. Playing Atlanta, at Atlanta, Carolina is, and James Conner and the worst team in the league are going up against Washington. It's actually a pretty good defense. So I will lean on Sanders' side for this. DeAndre Hopkins, WR1 on Tennessee. He's probably going to get like 9 targets a game now. That guy needs to get fed more than that to sustain, but I still think he's a pretty good, solid floor flex play here. I got him ranked in the 20s for wide receiver, which hurts me because Hop is so good. But Jacoby Myers is not better. Raiders at Denver on Sunday. Baltimore is also the number 1 defense this week. So I know it sounded like super lopsided. Points wise, though, not a crazy differential here. I've got Hans Molman at 125. They're projected 132. And I've got Ryan way higher than he's projected, but I have him at 120, 122 for points total. So still lean Jeff on that one. It's like a 60-30 sort of, or 60-40 split there for the two of them, leaning towards Jeff. Bone City versus Nick. Lamar Jackson over Tua, CeeDee Lamb over Waddle, barely. Devontae Adams over Olave. That's like the most even split you're going to see, though, as far as wide receiver matchups go. I will take Derrick Henry and Ramondre Stevenson over Bijan Robinson Brian Robinson, not Bijan Robinson. That's really going to F me up if I don't look at the team. Brian Robinson and Damian Pierce. Darren Waller has the potential to be the number 1 guy in New York. So I really love Darren Waller this year. I think a lot of people like Darren Waller this year. Evan Ingram had a very solid year last year. So let's see if we can keep that moving. I think it's a great tight end pickup for where you got him at. But I lean on the Waller side of that. DK Metcalf is just a freak. We saw what happened in Seattle last year. I think he's going to be fine again this year. They're playing the Rams. I think he's going to get a lot of points this week. Got him just outside the top 12. I think people are higher on J.K. Dobbins than he deserves, but I do think that J.K. Dobbins is going to get enough touches to be relevant. He's a year removed, even further from his injury. I think they brought him back too early and just really ticked a lot of people off. Mike Williams and Tyler Lockett here. You got to give Tyler Lockett the edge. I don't know how this guy finds a way. He's so tiny, and I just every year think that's it. That's all we've got from Tyler Lockett. It's done. I'm always wrong. I'm going to be wrong again this year. I'm putting him ahead of Mike Williams. So if I got to do it to one of those two guys, I got to do it to Mike Williams. Brett doesn't have a defense. Andy wins that one hands down. Right now, I'm getting Andy winning. We don't know what Brett's going to do with his defense, but it's 125 to 121. So I think when Brett does plug in a defense here, he's going to get the edge but it's going to be a very close matchup, probably the closest matchup of the week right there. I'm going to go to my matchup here very, very quickly. Jalen Hurts over Kirk Cousins, Tyreek Hill over T. Higgins. Give me Calvin Ridley over DJ Moore. Give me Saquon Barkley over Nick Chubb, but slightly RB4 to RB6, sort of a finish there. Give me Rashad White over David Montgomery. TJ Hawkinson over Travis Kelce, because I'm assuming he's not going to play this week. And then give me TJ Hawkinson over any other tight end that Mick has. Kelce plays, you know my answer on that. It's Kelce. Give me Keenan Allen over Juju Smith-Schuster, and give me Amari Cooper over Cole Kmet, who's sitting in mixed flex spot, because why not? I think Cincinnati's got a great defense. Washington's playing Arizona. I mean, what are you going to do? Washington's got a good defense. Typically, Arizona sucks. That should be a bloodbath. I expect Arizona to even score some freaking points on that one. I've got 131 to 123 for that game in favor of me. Sorry, Mick. Still love you. Blood Brothers and will a new name help? So Blood Brother, Zach. Josh Allen, great quarterback, QB4. Fields, Green Bay. they play them pretty tough. So I actually give the edge to Josh Allen on this one. Chris Godwin and Justin Jefferson. I mean, what are you going to do? It's Justin Jefferson, Drake London, Christian Watson. It's really close. I can't get behind Atlanta. You've heard me a little bit kind of moan about it now, but like I can't get behind Atlanta. I have no idea what they're doing this year. I want almost no part of any of that. I would just want to see what they do this year. And then next year I'll pay for some draft capital and some guys, but I can't do it right now. Same and another weird thing about Zach's team comp is he's got Drake London and Bijan. So you got a wide receiver and a running back on your team. Typically not the greatest because they're going to be, eating points away from each other. But I don't know why we're so high on Drake London after the amount of targets he got last year. And like I said earlier, I just think there's a lot of different things that are going to happen. Cordell Patterson is still in Atlanta, I'm pretty sure. Tyler Algier was freaking fantastic last year when he got to play. I mean, he was really freaking good. I don't know what Atlanta was doing with this pick in the actual draft, but regardless, they've got Bijan. I'm going to take Bijan over ETN. I'm going to take Josh Jacobs over Akers. I am going to take George Kittle over Pitts. He's a question mark. So, there's a potential solve here for Zach. Marquise Brown over McLaurin. I hate the turf toe injury. I've talked to Peel about this a ton. It drives me nuts because I love the player and I hate the injury prior to the season starting. Johan Dotson. Peel's going to kill me for this. I'm really high on this guy this year, but like growing up against Tony Pollard in position here, you're not going to get that. Buffalo is playing the Jets, and I think the Jets are still going to score some points, but it's a Buffalo defense. Dallas is also just a really good defense against the Giants team. I think that's going to be one of the better and most interesting actual games of the week is that Dallas versus Buffalo. I got Peel kind of winning this one by a landslide if you consider 6 points a landslide. But as far as I've separated points, that's one of the bigger ones that's in between here. So no ties. I'm not predicting any ties this week. I am strictly predicting wins for everybody. Let's take a quick look at the rankings here for where we're going to go for projected standings for the rest of the season. Here's how I think things shake out right now. I'm taking the safest route possible. If I'm looking at this, I'm going to go, I think you've got Hans Mollman at 8-6. I think you've got myself at 8-6. I'm going to take almost half the league in 7-7s here. Actually, I'm going to take over half the league in 7-7s here just to play it safe. But I'm going to give you some playoff odds as well. So don't think I'm cowering out of. I've got New Name Help, Fugit going deep, Kickers for People 2, Blood Brothers, Bone City, Pontiac Bandits, all at 7-7. I've got Hunter Biden's Laptop and Camper Dude at 6-8. So it's gonna be a close year. Once we pull away from week 1, I think we're gonna have a better picture of some stuff. But week 1 is always so odd in the NFL. I mean, those first 2 to 3 weeks are always so crazy. You've got every game going on. People forget how to play football. People don't forget how to play football. Show the people that don't know how to play football very quickly. And just weird things happen. I mean, remember the Bears beat the 49ers, so there's that in week 1 in the rain game. And then went on to lose, vast majority of the rest of their games. Also, thank you, Lovie Smith, for not making us pay for that too hard. I think, it's an 83% chance that Hans Mollman makes the playoffs. I don't know why I'm saying 83. I just want to sound like I know what I'm talking. It's like 80% for me and Hans Mollman to make the playoffs. I also think Peel's got, he's up there 80% chance to make the playoffs. Sean's probably somewhere in that percentile too. Kickers for People 2 is right around there as well. But I think the drop off comes after Sean's team for who has a shot of getting in the playoffs. I think right when you hit, Brett's team, that's where a drop off sort of kind of starts to happen. I mean, you could go neck and neck going into week 1. I hope I've made it obvious which team I think is going to do the worst. And if I haven't, let me just convey that again. Again, you're a great guy, Mick. I love you very much, but I don't see this roster threatening. Oh God, I hope I lose week 1 now. I really do. This is going to be hysterical for everybody else if I lose week 1 and you beat me and you have like this lineup that I'm just trashing on the podcast. So I'm going to stop. I'm actually going to stop and walk away from Bash and Mix team. I think it's going to be a great year. I want to do this more often. I would love to get you guys involved with this. I wanted to get you guys involved 2 years ago, but you guys all apparently have lives. So here I am recording at 10:50 at night on a Wednesday after Labor Day weekend, which should have been, earlier released than the day of. You'll hear this the day of football if you even decide to listen to it. But I think it's going to be a fantastic year. I think everybody had a good draft strategy going in. I mean, even Carlos had a good draft strategy. He came in 10th last year, and he was just like, you know what? Fuck it. I'll just let the computer do the thing for me. I'll just blame it on technical issues, and I'll get away with it. And Andy is just a non-factor. He lets Nick manage that team, and then he just doesn't make moves throughout the year. He makes like 3, but he consults Nick for every move. So we might want to consider just like offering Nick an 11th team and then putting a bye week in from this point out. I have no opposition to that. And the nice thing is that we won't have to deal with kicker votes again for a while. I don't know if that team name will ever change, but it's always going to be funny to me that last year the vote was a 50-50 split after the year before when kickers got removed by a majority vote. Then we were a 50-50 split, and the rule is the tie goes to the prevailing rule, which was to have kickers removed, and you can't put a vote up for a third consecutive year. Having kickers removed and then adding kickers back in is essentially the same vote reversed. So that one is completely next. You couldn't offer it up. But I love that Andy was like, can I put a vote in this year before we vote on anything? I was like, sure, you got time. And we heard nothing from him. So I don't know if he just like got caught up in like working with ChatGPT to write some impassioned speech and just never got around to it. But them's the breaks. Don't have kickers. I love the format of the league this year. I think we did a good job putting that vote to action and getting rid of some of the stuff that wasn't really making sense for us anymore. And I hope someday that we can move defenses out of this league as well, and just have what we've got here without defenses and kickers, and actually draft positional things that you do your research on. So, okay, I'm going to stop ranting. I'm going to get out of here. Everybody, it's a pleasure to have you in this league. I take none of it for granted. I am very excited to get this thing going again with you guys, and I am looking forward to a fantastic year with each and every one of you. Again, my family can't thank you enough. You really do put dinner on the table for us sometimes. All the cameos I've been able to get over the years, it's been wonderful. So keep that up. I adore every minute of it. And here's to number 4 in terms of W's for me. Appreciate you. And I will see you whenever the F I decide to do this again, whenever that may be.